Today, we live very differently. Today is very different. But there's different times in business that, hey, that's what's going to be. And nothing that makes me or you proof to anything else later on. But if you have that within you, you know, that hustle and grind, you can make it through.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the STR Investing Podcast. I am your co-host, Mark Lumpkin. And like always, every Friday, guys, we bring you an interesting guest who's doing something fun and unique in the short-term rental space. This week, we have none other than Jason Baxter, and he's going to talk about tech, how you can leverage some different tools and resources to maximize your bookings, make the most amount of money possible, and be a better overall STR investor. Jason, would you say hi to everybody?
Hi.
Glad to have you on, man. Where are you calling in from?
Montreal, Canada.
Okay, cool. And so would you fill us in just on your background, just how you got started in the short-term rental space?
I kind of fell into it. It wasn't something I was looking for. I was working in tech and I was working in hospitality. So I used to sell tools for hotels. So at the beginning, when you used to do the check-in, the pre-check-in, this is over 10 years ago, so it's kind of common today. But at the beginning, that was the beginning of that journey. And I'd recently moved downtown Montreal, and I had a condo, and this is before there was a lot of regulation and stuff like this in the city. And I rented out my place. I was thinking just for short, like just one time off, going on vacation. It would pay for my vacation, and I gave her the keys to the guest, and I thought I would come back, and that would be easy as it would sound. So, anyways, I came back, paid for my vacation. It was a fantastic time, and I came back to 50% of my summer booked, and I left it on Instant Book with a calendar wide open as a rookie.
So you had no home to come back to is basically what you're saying.
and having a career in sales, I was like, at first I was going to cancel everything and pay the fees. And then I realized that there was a supply issue. And this is 10 years ago before it was really taking off. And before canceling everything, I realized that there was an opportunity there. And it's kind of something I just wanted to explore. And then we went from having 1 to 2 to 3. And eventually I built myself up to a portfolio of 50 lofts in Montreal. And it's kind of like old Montreal is like cobblestone roads, bricks, stones, construction from the 1718 and 1900s. And it was beautiful property. And it was going super well. And then all of a sudden, like many people, COVID hit and it shut down the whole operation. And up here in Canada, the government shut down any booking channel. So compared to the US, where you kind of live a little bit more free, they had an intervention on this. So for 5 months, I carried the leases. There's no force majeure in our contract, so I had to pay everything out. So I was down, by the end of it, over $1 million in cash.
Wow.
So you're faced with bankruptcy. I was one payment short of bankruptcy. And in the process, I turned it around and realized that there was nothing to do here at the moment, offloaded everything, and went the digital route. Everything that I learned, all the tools that we built for our 50 units, turned around and started, promoting it out, and then started building the business around that and really helping people around the world build their Airbnbs with the knowledge and experience I went through from the ground up.
Dude, that's crazy. There's a lot to unpack there, so I'm going to have multiple questions, but I want to start kind of back at the beginning. So you come back to town, you've listed your property just hoping it would fill up while you were gone on vacation, and this thing's booked solid through the next couple of months. What did you do? Did you end up going and just renting a different place for you? Did you crash on some friend's couch? Like, what did you do?
It's a little different. I was coming out of a divorce, so I have kids, I have family, so being able to just crash on someone's couch wasn't so much of an option, but right away, it honestly paid. Like if I go back and look at those years, like I had my condo and it paid for the apartment temporarily. So right away, it was cash flow positive, and that's where I realized what was going on. And the tools started becoming part of the process of, I'm like, a typical guest comes in, says he's coming in, let's say for 6, 7 p.m. and shows up at 3 p.m. on your doorstep. And I'm a full-time employee at a tech company, and I'm in a different part of town. And he's like, I want to get in. So we're going back quite a few years, like smart locks weren't even a thing, and then finding the first smart lock and how to make it work, and all the different pieces come together. And then it was where I was working at. I was working with the right people. They understood hospitality, they understood tech, and then started piecing all these pieces together so I could, host properly and give them a great experience, but at the same time work and do what I was doing, and it would all start to automate. So it was the early days of automation, whereas today it's really mainstream.
For sure. Yeah, so there really wasn't a whole lot of resources when you got started. So I would assume that a lot of the automations you built and the processes you built were probably like ground up, right? You were having to innovate and figure these things out on your own because there wasn't a tech stack. You couldn't just go out and buy a service that did everything.
There was PMSs out there, but there are more truly geared towards hotels, and there was certain products that I've used. Over the years I've used them all and tested them all to see how it works, and I've learned over the time just how to create the best product within that. Like understanding what the host is looking for and try to automate, streamline, maximize, optimize for what they need to do, and not have all the bells and whistles on everything.
That's just crazy, man. Do you feel like your experience and your background in tech sales, because you're kind of already in the hospitality space, did you already feel like you had that skill set, or was this really just like grinding it out, figuring all this stuff out from scratch?
I think grinding it out, but there's a lot of what I can share with people is we all have natural skills, we have learned skills, we have work skills, and it's like different parts of our lives that come together. And I look at a lot of people in hospitality, there's a lot of different components to it, and I think you've shared on your shows in the past, like you have a real estate component, you have a design component, you have a tech component, so it's where this crossroad meets, and I think this is where we all share our passion for this business. And for me, one of my first jobs was at McDonald's. So tuning to your guest, it was a guest at the end of the day, it was a customer, and grabbing that piece of information and saying, okay, making sure that they're satisfied with what they were looking for. So it came from a very hospitable background. Like you come over to my place, it's very hospitable. So it's how I ran business no matter what. And then just added the different components to it. So, and even 10 years later, I'm still learning. I don't know about you, but there's so many different pieces to this business that, there's always something to be learned out there.
Yeah, I love that. I want to talk about being on the verge of bankruptcy, right? Because there's a lot of people, especially in our audience, that have not done short-term rentals for a long time. And so they're mostly investors post-COVID. And I feel like there's the OGs that have been in it for 10 plus years, and you've seen the different cycles. There's people that are relatively new, and then there's a lot of people that got in right after COVID. So they made it, they didn't have to deal with everybody being shut down, but they benefited from the rocket ships being turned back on and just kind of caught the wave. They rode this huge wave, but they missed the lull. And so you went through it and you barely survived it. A lot of people that were in it didn't survive it. And losing $1 million in cash is no small feat. Most businesses cannot withstand that. What was it that helped you guys survive? Was it sheer luck? You just had enough runway just to barely make it? Did your systems allow you to downscale and cut costs? Or can you walk me through your real mindset and what you guys were doing during that time to survive? Because that's a pretty impressive feat in its own.
It's honestly despair. At the end of the day, everybody remembers where they were in COVID. And certain points in our lives we can probably all relate. But it's day by day, week by week, you don't know where this is all going. You're like, okay, I'm shut down, I'm closed. Okay, fine, fantastic. I can hold it for a bit. Okay, I got to pay next month's rent. And rent is $150,000 a month. So, okay, I have cash flow, we're going out, but you still don't know where it's going. So month after month, you start to run out of options of what's going on. And there's property that I owned, and then there's properties that I did it for other people, and there's leases that I had. So, unloading that inventory was pretty interesting. I'm not a real estate agent, and guess what? I learned to put on my real estate agent hat without, doing lease transfers and stuff like this and showing property night and day to get it done. And then same thing goes, I became a master of Facebook Marketplace. Get rid of the furniture just to make ends meet. So you know what? I really look at it as whatever is meant to be is meant to be. And no matter where you are in life, that's what it is. So if you're meant to learn a lesson of what that is, for me, it was learning to let go. There's many lessons of learning to let go that kind of came all together. And as I let go and I trusted my intuition and trusted, the destiny, that was exactly what was needed. And it was kind of it just happened. Being able to make that last payment and something taking off, I couldn't have timed it better. There was something in there, whatever you believe in, that it was meant to be.
It was meant to be. Good for you, man. So let's dive into the tech stuff. Well, one quick question for you. Were you still in tech sales when doing all this? Were you still dual rolling and
No.
By then you were all in.
Very quick. became very quick where I dropped one to the other. Like they were focused on hotels, and this is the rise of short-term rental independent. And I just looked at it and I'm like, nope, this is going down for now. And this is going up. And as we learned in the past 10 years, or as we go through our careers, everything has a cycle. It goes up and down. And you spoke about the people that missed the wall, they went on and up, and there's also a down, and there's a wave that they need to go through. So
interesting, really interesting, man. Let's talk about some of the tech tools you guys use, right? Obviously, starting 10 years ago versus today, the landscape has drastically changed. You used to have to meet people and hand them keys and unlock the house. Now, having smart locks on a rolling code basis is super standard, and your automated message just messages the guest their code that starts working at check-in time at 4 p.m. and stops working at 10 a.m. checkout day. And so it's like, we know kind of some of the main stuff, but what would you say has really been the differentiating pieces between when you started 10 years ago versus today, and how is that making this maybe easier or more profitable for investors who are getting into the game?
Okay, the core, no matter what, is hospitality. Your last guest said it, it's how you make someone feel. And you can put as much tech as you want, but if you're not changing someone's experience from who they became before they checked in and who they became after they checked in, your business will not last throughout the seasons and cycles. So tech is there for you to put the cherry on the sundae. Only you can put the cherry on the sundae. Only the host can put the cherry on the sundae. And they need to feel that through each person's personality. So what it does is, on my side, is just the intuition of 10 years of experience of hearing someone out, hearing their problems, knowing what the market problems are, and finding that compromise and using tech in between to bridge everything. So, it's the timing of things. So no one wants to feel like there's an automated message, because the moment they feel like something is automated, it's putting them in a bad mood, and they'll test your system a lot more. But if you can use it and time things and A/B test, this is the thing I love about tech and science, is you learn to test everything back and forth, and you find the patterns that work. There's things that work better, and things that don't work. So let's get rid of the things that don't work. Sometimes it's work, but what's that refinement goes from there. That's the difference between you making $300 a night and $450 a night. Same property, same location, same everything. But guess what? Over time, you had that consistency that made someone feel a certain way, and then it shows up in the review, influence the next guest, and that pattern goes from there. So that's really, like, tech should be seamless to the host, should be seamless to the guest, and those two should just be interacting on a personal level and being able to give that person more time.
So as you're A/B testing things, which I'm a big fan of, we've obviously, we do that every day with our properties, and like last year we looked at our pricing this time last year, and we realized we were underpriced, and we booked out too quickly. And now we're like, okay, it's weird because the calendar in 3 weeks isn't full, but we know that this is the start of the summer in this market. And we know that a lot of people, like what we saw last year, a lot of last minute bookers came in, and we just got a booking for next week, and it's almost at double the rate that we had last year for the same week. And so where do you prioritize A/B testing? And do you do a lot of different testing on process and pricing and everything all at once? Or do you focus on just doing one or two things at a time? Like, how do you differentiate that? Because I feel like I could also then raise cleaning fees, or we could lower night minimums, or we could dog friendly. Like, there's so many ways to skin this cat, that how do you start to prioritize what's the focus, and how many of those do you do at a time?
So there's 10 years of building up A/B testing. It's not one thing, but it's learning to control the variables. So there's a lot of layers to this business, and that's why I keep sharing, like I shared with you, like 10 years later, I'm still learning. But there's so many different layers. Every time you change something, it's going to have an effect. So the things over the first, let's say, 5-6 years, those are the constants that we've built out. And then after that, it's the fine tuning from there. And then there's also the market variability. Like, we're speaking as of today in May 2026, there's different tectonic economic plates moving around. Right? Look at the price of gas right now. That's going to have an impact this summer. Like, if this keeps going like this.
It shocks me every time I drive by it.
Right? Now, who's driving where?
Yeah.
You're going to have different markets. You're going to have a lot more staycation. But it's how you pay attention to the different things that are also happening in the marketplace and learning to adjust them as well. So travel never leaves. It just adjusts. And it's learning how to adjust the sales. And if I can give a relation if someone's not as tech oriented and they're, let's say, more service oriented, or if they understand like sailing, you're adjusting your sails. So it's different variables that you learn to adjust the sails to fine tune to what it is exactly what the market is giving. And sometimes you gotta give yourself grace. Like, you had a couple of bookings that are underpriced, you learn to readjust. This is a long tail game business. So there is no right answer. There's just better answers, and there's people that have been in the business longer that can help people get further, quicker, cheaper, without learning all the lessons that I learned.
Yeah. Very interesting, man. We could talk about this for hours, I'm sure. I know we got 30 to 45 minutes here, but so where's your focus at now? Like you obviously said that you survived COVID and you learned a lot and you built a lot of systems and processes. And are you reinvesting in Canada again? Did you look more towards the US market after that? What was the next step for you coming out of COVID?
Okay, so right out of COVID, where I saw growth was rural areas. Like everybody was leaving cities. So we went into ads, we went into, referrals and stuff like that. Like I really pulled up my sleeves and started making 1,000 phone calls and Zoom calls and connecting with people. But where I found a place that was really on the up and up during COVID was Tulum. That was my next growth market that brought me to the next step. And sometimes in business, that's what it is. It's one step at the other. Like you can talk about strategy, but strategy is when you have a sound mind. Sometimes when you're in survival mode, you're just, it's one foot in front of the other. And that's where it was. But during that season where it saved it, is like you're getting 2 bedrooms going for $30,000 a month. Like that was the season. That's what saved Marketics. And it was just, getting these listings and then referred from people to people that they're like, oh my God, you made this. And all of a sudden you're starting to get, plugged with more and more owners and hosts and stuff like that. And I'm going as granular as it can be. Like I can make it glorified and say, we did this marketing campaign, stuff like that. But sometimes it's just, the grind and hustle of wanting to succeed that gets you to the next step. Today, we live very differently. Today is very different. But there's different times in business that, hey, that's what's going to be. And nothing that makes me or you proof to anything else later on. But if you have that within you, that hustle and grind, you can make it through.
Yeah, I love that. I think one thing that a lot of people that we work with specifically, and a lot of people that listen into the pod, is it's a function of skill, knowledge, and time. Time's a big one, right? And so we underestimate the value of time. And if you put an hour into something that should have required 5 hours and you half-ass it, in this game, it could cost you tens of thousands of dollars. And so it's we're factoring in for the unforeseeable future and what could have been. Like it's the opportunity cost is the word I'm looking for. Is the opportunity cost, and a lot of people don't factor that in. And so when you're working with folks, is that a factor that they're thinking about? Because they're like, hey, a lot of this, and I'll preface this question too by saying that a lot of people in the industry are very DIY minded. And so they're like, oh, I can save $1 by doing this myself. But they're not thinking about the opportunity cost that, by saving the $1, you cost yourself $5. Was it really worth it? And so what are your thoughts around that? There's opportunity cost and really the DIY mindset in this game. Because I'm not an expert at everything. I'm actually really only an expert at one thing. And so I always count on the experts to do the other things for me.
Of course there's, do it yourself. And I think that's part of the process. I think that's part of you win and you lose. You're not always going to win on every single shot, but at a certain point, you hit that point of like, I need the professionals. So, if someone wants to do it themselves, by all means, go and do it. But at the same time, you and I are both living proof that if we focus on what we do, I've taken someone, I'll give you a case study. Someone came to me with 4 booking channels, was making $65,000 a year for his property in Puerto Rico, and I turned around to $210,000 using a single channel. And there was a strategy to it. Now, don't take my words and run with it, because there's reasons why we do certain things. But once again, it's all those variables. You look at the variables of any market, and it could be the location, it could be the style of places, and there's a strategy decision that's made to be able to get it to that point. And you need an openness from each host to go, I've tried it, I've learned, and I want to go to the next level. And then that's a good fit for anybody working, like whether with you or with me. If I got to carry someone every single decision, it's not going to work. But there's a surrender to this to say, you've done this long enough. I admire your quality of work. go do what you can do, bring me a return on investment. That's a good fit.
I love that. Let's talk about alternative booking opportunities, right? A lot of people in the industry are very Airbnb heavy, a little bit of VRBO, but that's really where the buck stops, and myself included. And so I've seen kind of the rise of some of these alternative channels, direct booking, like you said, you talked about Facebook Marketplace, things like that. I've also seen like Booking.com making a huge push into the US market, especially with the upcoming soccer games that we've got coming in the World Cup, things like that. Like, what are you bullish on these alternative booking platforms? Do you think that they're worth leveraging and that you should really try to maximize for them? Do you think that it's just a waste of time? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, it depends. And the reason why I say it depends is because there's a strategy to all of this. And very, very easily put is everybody's looking for eyeballs, but you want good eyeballs. Because the reality is you have one property with one date. So you don't need so many eyeballs. You need the right eyeballs to say, that's what I want. So there's a pairing between product and market fit. There's a market, you develop the product. This is truly what you're good at, is developing amazing product that people want to stay at. So you don't need a lot of eyeballs. You just need the right eyeballs to look at it. So, sometimes is there, depending on the type of experience or stay that I'm going to agree with, if I'm going to say diversify in all these channels, I'm going to tell people you're wasting your time, because I'll give you a quick example. If you and I want to go to a restaurant, let's go to a completely different, different space, and we look on Google Maps, and you see one restaurant, 8 reviews, 5-star, or you see another one with 196, 4.6. Which one are you trusting?
You're definitely trusting the one with more reviews, even though you have a lower total score.
Correct. Now, what happens when you diversify all your booking channels? There's 2 sides. You got your algorithm, how you rank, and then you got social proofing. So social proofing is typically, I need to see enough. I have a certain number in my mind that it needs to be attractive to me and whoever's looking at it, and then find myself within those reviews. Because if I have a family, if I'm single or stuff like this, I'm looking for these reviews. Is this solid? Is this credible? But also within myself. If you're diversifying all over the place, you might be doing it too soon. And I think this is a major problem that most hosts do. Find the booking channel that is the most attractive for your market and develop it, and then eventually diversify one channel at a time. Become the master of that channel and then diversify. So sometimes, just to go back to your question, and you say these alternative ones, if you built your business that way, then fantastic. But if you're on Airbnb and you're just looking for the next best thing, it might not be the next best thing.
Ooh, I love that. That's the best answer you could have ever given, man. That gave me chills down my spine. I'm a big fan of that. Like, even on building a social media platform, and everybody wants to go just start shotgunning all of these Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube and blah, 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 blah. Man, I spent 2.5 years building my LinkedIn before I finally felt like, all right, now it's time to go to YouTube in video form. And, our podcast has been running for 3 years almost, and we've had 100,000 downloads and blah, 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 blah. But we had to go for 2 years with guest speakers every Friday before we added a Monday episode and a Market Monday. And we test that out, and we're going to run it for 6 months, 12 months, year and a half before we're ready to add that next iteration. And so I'm a huge fan in getting really good at the one thing, doing it really well, making sure that it's dialed in before you move on to the next thing. And I think most entrepreneurs and investors really struggle with that. And I do too, right? You get squirrel brain a little bit. I know you're nodding. You're ready to jump to the next thing too. It's like you got to walk before you run, and that is a contradictory message to what most kind of influencers in the real estate and entrepreneurial space preach, which is they're like, just go blow up the world overnight. It doesn't happen like that usually.
That's right. You can get lucky. I've gotten lucky in business, like right place, right time. Great. You learn to harness it, but it took me years and years of preparation before. It took me failures and failures and failures to realize what made something work, tick, move. But it was an understanding that whenever there's something I'm not understanding, I understand that there's something above it. And it's my job to be curious above it. So I'll give you an example. How these booking engines work. You'll see how many views you have, you see how many, bookings you have, what's your revenue and stuff like that, but they're not showing the layer above. They're not showing you how you rank, right? That's where people come to Marketics, is because they want to know what's happening. I look at, there's 79 different factors that make prices move in different directions. That's just pricing alone. And it's like these huge economic things. We spoke about gas. Well, guess what? That powers a plane, that powers a car for someone move from place to place. That's a huge impact on what, someone's staying short term. So all these little levers get to where is demand going. And once you can start having demand, like where we get to is how to filter that demand towards us. Where this is where you're talking, saying do it yourself, is you don't see it. So that's that bridge in between that we really help people, is taking them from, okay, we make sure there's an alignment in what they're doing. You really do it on the product side. And I'm really excited to actually meet you and speak to you, because I'm like, wow, this group of people get it, like I see it all the time. I'm coaching people. I'm like, you got to do these certain things. And then what they show up, and I see pictures afterwards, I'm like, I wish I could have gone out there to just show you. Now I know what to do with it. Now I know hey, you gotta go speak over here first before we do anything more. You're in construction phase, like go get that second opinion. And then from there, when you have a great product, it becomes easier to sell. But then once it becomes easier to sell, maybe there's an extra level of going up more. Can I go get more for that place? And then just optimizing it.
Everything can always be refined and refined and refined again. So I love that. I want to talk about the future of short-term rentals with you, but first I want to ask one circle back question, which is, you mentioned that you've been a super host 35 times. And for those who are newer, they don't know, you can only become a super host once a quarter, I think. And so 35 times is going to put you at, damn near 8 or 9 years in a row, which is pretty impressive, man. Talk me through that. What did that look like? I mean, how much time, dedication, and how were you able to maintain that status for such a long period of time? There's people that say it doesn't really do a whole lot. I disagree. I think that there's some real benefits to it. But how did you maintain it for that period of time?
Okay, one, really putting the guest first. I put a lot of empathy, even though I'm in tech, even though that now it's like little fragments of Jason's philosophy throughout a system. It's always putting the guest first. When I speak to investors, when I speak to hosts, when I speak to property managers, it's how they're putting that guest first. Because at the end of the day, that's the review, that's how they perceived it, and which trickles into once a quarter getting that badge of honor. Now, does it make a big difference today in saying I have 35? Well, it does now, because there's so many over time that, I look back, I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool to achieve that. So it's putting the guest first, and then not fighting with your booking channel. They're your partner. And sometimes, I'm gonna be honest with you, they're not super qualified. Someone made cost cuts, and the person you get it just doesn't get it. And it's looking at the bigger picture and learning to pick your battles. So if I give a big tip to people is I know air claims can be extremely frustrating, and I know that guests are not always amazing, but do your best to get that 5-star and move on and let the experience go and just keep going. It's a long tail game. If you're looking for short term, it's a short term rental. It's a long term game.
I love that. Short term rental, long term game. That's probably what we're going to call this episode. I think it's perfect. And you're right. I mean, you got to think big picture. There's been plenty of times where we're like, the guest did $1,000 worth of damage, and Airbnb's like, we're going to give you $250. And it's just like, this sucks. Do we fight with this person who's based overseas and probably doesn't speak English very well and has a million other cases, and they're just trying to do the best they possibly can? Or do we just chalk it up to the cost of business, get the house refreshed, move on, and the next guest will probably be great? I definitely agree with that. And I've seen people fall out of it over the 10% disappointment. Try to focus on the 90% that's good and just move on. So I think that's great advice, man. Where do you think we're going? Where's the future of this thing? You've obviously seen where it's come from. I know there's a lot of chatter about AI. I'm obviously implementing it everywhere I can in our business, but where do you think the future of bookings go? And I saw Uber's getting, just recently, a couple days ago, Uber's getting into the hotel business. And that might be interesting if they get into the short-term rental business. You see Airbnb getting into flights and talking about helping book flights and things like that. So you start to see a lot of these really big players start to do different things. And so I'd love to just get your thoughts on that, on your outlook for the next couple of years.
Okay, One, I think there's going to M&A is going to start shaping up. I have a feeling people are going to cross over into people's lanes and it's going to provoke M&A. So there is going to be shifts in how everything is done. Two, each booking channel is getting into AI just as much as the independent operator. Guess what? There's going to be a lot of, if you're not an excellent host, you're going to start feeling suppression in their algorithm. From what I understood, there's someone over from Facebook that came over to Airbnb and they understand this game. So in the algorithm game, what content gets pushed, what doesn't. So Airbnb, just so everybody understands this, doesn't distribute fairly. It's not a fair distribution of how each property shows up. There is an algorithm and how you rank, and it's really driven by how people review you at the end of the day. I'm gonna say that's a major factor in there. So if you think you're gonna come in and just Airbnb it, short-term rental it up, come with a real estate background and don't think there's hospitality involved, the whole system is going to shut you down more and more and more, which gives room for people who love this business, for people who thrive in creating a guest experience, whether it be in their product like you do, whether it be in the hospitality like a lot of hosts do. And the same thing goes with me in tech, supporting people to get rid of all the repetitive stuff that doesn't belong in the heavy lifting of doing this business. It's going to become easier and harder. Easier with the tech that comes in. Like you're going to have very shortly Jarvis for the whole system. Like you just talk to it, it's going to tell you off what's happening in there, how to optimize. We're working on projects like that. But at the same time, if someone needs a connection, a human connection, they're flying overseas. Sometimes guests want to be met. Or what is your process for them interacting with your community? Whether it be you or having some bridging the gap in between of where you're going and getting human connection as much as possible. That in turn creates amazing reviews versus a great place to stay. It becomes the whole experience, all the keywords. That becomes very heavy afterwards in terms of ranking and bookability. So people that are in tune with just providing a great guest experience, streamlining their operation, optimizing it, that there is an algorithm that they need to rank as high as possible, those are the people who are going to win moving forward.
I love it, man. Thanks for coming on, Jason. This was super fun to chat with you. Where can people find you? Where's the best way for people to link up with you?
Okay, I'm going to say 3 different spots. We can go to marketics.io. So I know there's people listening in. So marketics.io, Market Analytics. They can email me directly, jason@marketics.io, or they can find me on Instagram. I travel the world, so sometimes there's inspirations and stuff like that, and I love connecting with people. It's jasonbaxter.ca on Instagram.
All right, man. I'm following you on Instagram right now. We're going to drop those links that you gave us in the show notes so people can really easily find them. And thanks for coming on, Jason. Super fun to talk with you, man. Really interesting story. Where's your next trip planned to? You said you travel a lot. Where are you heading to next?
Okay, it's still in a standstill. I just had my 3rd child. So I just have a brand new baby girl. She's 4 months, so we've been a little bit more homebound at the moment. But as soon as she's up and ready, we're off. So I don't know. It might be Europe. It's just a matter of season because Montreal is beautiful during the summer, and I'd go to Europe. But if it goes more towards the fall, then probably like down south.
Good for you, man. I love it. I see you got photos in Paris. You got a photo in Bali. You got a photo in Florence, Italy. Like you look like you've been having a lot of fun, man. So I'll make sure to follow you. Thanks for being on the STR Investing Podcast, Jason. We will catch you next time. And guys, make sure that you like, share, subscribe. Reach out to Jason if you have any questions about what him and his team have been up to and how they can help you optimize your listing, take advantage of some of these great tools and resources out there. And he brought up some really good points. Hospitality comes first, and you can't think about this through the lens of just being a real estate investor. You've got to also think about it as being a hotel owner and taking care of people and make sure they have good experiences and leave good reviews and tell their friends and family. So Jason, catch you next time. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will bring you another Market Monday data report on Monday and another guest speaker next Friday.